Gary Cooper made one last trip to his Montana ranch in April 1961, just a few weeks before he died. He left behind a collection of secret paintings, a saddle that changed Hollywood history, and memories that showed the real man behind the legend, from his nervous breakdowns to his escape from fame. These secrets would shock his biggest fans today, as they finally shared what they found at the 7-Bar Inn. And Frank James Cooper, later known as Gary Cooper, was born on May 7, 1901 in Helena, Montana. His parents, Charles and Alice, were from England, and he was born there. People in the town said that when baby Frank first cried, it sounded like nature letting them know that someone special was there. Frank grew up in Montana's wild beauty, but his parents kept their English traditions at home. Even though they lived in the Untamed West, Frank and his brother Arthur had to speak proper British English and follow strict table manners. Frank's father was a lawyer and later a judge. He often took Frank to the Montana State Capitol to watch debates and look at Western art on the walls. This mix of frontier life and English values shaped who Frank became. In 1908, when Frank was only 7 years old, a nearby dam broke, flooding the area. Frank's early life had moments that hinted at his future. When he was 9, he won a contest by reciting a poem with such passion that the audience gave him a standing ovation. In the crowd was a vaudeville performer who later said that Cooper Boy could be a star someday. No one believed it at the time, but they would. When Frank was 5, his father bought a 600-acre cattle ranch called the 7-Bar Inn. Life on the ranch was hard. Frank had to do chores first thing in the morning, even when it was freezing outside. He said that he was shoveling manure at freezing temperatures. At age 12, he was scared when a bull charged him, but he got away by quickly steering his horse into a group of trees. Working on the ranch also made him interested in Native American culture. Workers once found artifacts like arrowheads while digging a well, and Frank became fascinated by their history. When Frank was 9, his parents sent him and his brother to England for school because their mother wanted them to get a proper education. Going from ranch life to a strict English boarding school was hard. Frank said it was like going from roping cattle to reciting Shakespeare overnight. During school breaks, he went back to Montana and told his classmates crazy stories about ranch life. His classmates thought he was making it all up. In England, Frank discovered a love for books and art. He read a lot of Shakespeare and Dickens, which helped him later in his acting. But he also had awkward moments, like when he wore cowboy boots and a Stetson to school, which caused a stir. World War I ended his time in England, and he returned to Montana in 1914. He struggled to fit in. His British manners made him stand out, and people teased him for his accent. He worked hard to relearn ranching skills and reconnect with the land. At 17, Frank showed how unique he was by giving a speech at a local rodeo that mixed cowboy slang and Shakespeare quotes. People were amazed at his ability to balance rough and smooth. Gary Cooper's life changed forever on his 15th birthday. It was May 7, 1916 in Helena, Montana, and Gary and his friend Harvey Markham decided to go for a drive. The day started out fun and exciting, but it ended in disaster. Harvey was driving when the car suddenly lost control and flipped over several times before landing upside down. Gary was trapped under the wreck and was in so much pain that he could barely stand. His left side felt heavy and useless, like it didn't belong. Doctors treated Gary's cuts and bruises at the hospital, but they didn't realize his hip was broken because they never took an X-ray. This mistake would change Gary's life forever. His hip wouldn't heal the way it should have, and he would have to deal with the effects for the rest of his life. The accident made Gary grow up quickly. He was no longer a carefree boy. He had to deal with pain and recovery. The doctor, who didn't know how bad his hip really was, suggested that Gary go horseback riding every day to help it heal. Gary thought it was the right thing to do, but the constant jolts from riding made things worse. Even though it was painful, Gary didn't give up. He spent hours on horseback gritting his teeth through the pain. Over time, he came up with his own way to walk and ride to deal with his injury. His walk became a bit uneven with a slight limp, but it made him stand out on horseback. He leaned slightly to one side, giving him a style that people would later recognize on screen. In 1924, Gary Cooper was 23 years old when he left Montana and moved to Los Angeles. He wanted to be an artist. His father had already moved there earlier that year to take care of some family estates. When Gary moved to Los Angeles, he thought it would be the perfect time to follow his dream. He had studied art for 2 years in college and even drew cartoons for a newspaper back in Montana. He was sure of his skills, but things didn't go as planned. Gary tried to find work in advertising, but had trouble getting steady jobs. One of his first jobs was painting cough drop ads on theater curtains, which wasn't what he had planned for himself. To make ends meet, he did whatever he could find, selling signs, promoting photographers' work, and even took more art classes when he could. In early 1925, Gary ran into 2 old friends from Montana who were working as extras and stunt writers in movies. They told him about the opportunities in Hollywood, and Gary decided to give it a try. His first job as a film extra was in a Western called The Thundering Herd. He made $5 a day, which was enough for him because he grew up on a ranch with horses. He also started doing stunts, which paid even more at $10 a day. The work was hard and dangerous. He had to jump off horses and take falls that hurt many men, but Gary kept at it and ended up in dozens of low-budget westerns where he had small roles or just followed the lead. At this point, Gary realized that his name, Frank Cooper, was too common and that he needed a unique name to stand out. His agent, Nan Collins, suggested the name Gary after her hometown of Gary, Indiana. Gary liked the sound of it. It was short, easy to remember, and seemed like the right choice for his new life in Hollywood. Gary's big break came in 1926 when he got a small but important part as a cowboy named Abe Lee in the movie The Winning of Barbara Worth. He was just on the studio lot when they needed a replacement, and his rugged good looks made him a natural fit for the part. The movie was filmed in the hot Nevada desert, which was hard for everyone, but Gary's performance stood out. Critics said he had a natural charm that would take him far. The success of the movie opened doors for Gary. He signed a big contract with Paramount Pictures and made $175 a week, which was a lot for someone who had just been doing stunt work a year before. His role in The Winning of Barbara Worth put him on the path to becoming a star. He had a role in Wings in 1927, even though he was only in it for a few minutes, as Cadet White people remembered him. The movie was a huge hit and won the first Academy Award for Best Picture. It made $3 and had great aerial shots. $8 million, which was a lot of money back then. Cooper only got $187.50 a week, but being in such a successful movie helped him get noticed. When silent movies turned into talkies, many actors had trouble, but Cooper didn't. His voice was deep and smooth, which made it perfect for the new type of movies. His first talking role was in the 1929 hit Virginia. He had trouble remembering lines, so he started saying them in short, simple ways. This became his style, and people liked how natural and real he seemed. In 1930, he starred in Morocco with Marlene Dietrich. Dietrich was new to Hollywood and didn't speak English well, but Cooper's simple way of acting made it easy for her to work with him. By the early 1930s, Cooper was so important to Paramount Studios that they paid him $175,000 in cash and stock to keep him from leaving. At the time, that was a lot of money. In 1932, he starred in A Farewell to Arms, which was based on Ernest Hemingway's book of the same name. Hemingway's book, he played an ambulance driver in World War I who falls in love with a nurse. This was a big movie for Cooper because it showed he could handle dramatic parts. 25 million, and people loved his performance. He had such great chemistry with co-star Helen Hayes that people couldn't stop talking about their relationship on screen. There's even a scene in a hospital where his character gets blessed, and some people later wondered if that affected Cooper's own religious beliefs. He didn't talk much as a child in Montana. He observed more than he spoke. This showed in his acting. When he had trouble remembering lines, he would cut them short, which gave his characters a calm, understated way of speaking. Directors admired this, saying that he could show deep emotions with just his face or a small gesture. His performance in Sergeant York in 1941, where he played a real-life war hero, won him an Oscar because it was so heartfelt and honest. Later, in High Noon in 1952, he played a sheriff who faces a moral dilemma. Cooper wasn't just a famous actor, he was also one of the highest paid people in Hollywood. By 1937, he was making $37,988,819 a year, making him the highest paid person in the United States. He was also smart with money. Instead of taking a big paycheck up front, he would ask for a share of the profits from his movies, which paid off in movies like 1954, Vera Cruz, where he got a share of the profits. Made $1.4 million, but his high earnings caused him problems as well. In 1941, he owed $280,000 in back taxes and had to sell his art collection, which included works by Picasso and Renoir. Gary Cooper had a life full of drama, passion, and scandal in the late 1920s and early 1930s. He was famous not only for acting, but also for his many affairs with some of Hollywood's biggest stars. His relationship with Lupe Viz began in 1929 when they worked together on the movie. Holly would talk about how jealous and angry Viz unzipped Cooper's pants in front of everyone to check for another woman's perfume. But that wasn't even close to what happened in 1930. During one of their many fights, Viz found lipstick on Cooper's collar and snapped. She grabbed a knife and chased him through the house, even though he tried to avoid her. She caught him in his study and hurt his arm badly enough that he needed 15 stitches. Cooper's team tried to hide it by saying he had an accident at home, but the truth got out. He didn't press charges and even got back together with Viz afterward, telling his friends that it was just Lupe that she loved with all her heart, and sometimes that meant her fists. The last event in Cooper and Viz's crazy relationship happened at Union Station in Los Angeles in June 1931. Cooper was there to catch a train to New York before leaving for Europe. Viz, angry that he was leaving, rushed to the station and started a fight. She yelled at him in front of everyone, calling him a son of a, before pulling out a gun and firing a shot. The bullet missed a pillar but sent the crowd into a panic. Cooper didn't seem scared, but he got on the train while Viz disappeared into the crowd. The story made headlines all over the world. Later, Viz said the gun was just a starter pistol meant to scare him, but the damage had already been done and the couple's relationship was over for good. In 1930, Cooper had another affair, this time with Marlene Dietrich while filming Morocco. Dietrich was bold and stylish, known for her unique androgynous look. Their chemistry on screen carried over into real life, and they were often seen together at fancy restaurants and nightclubs, which kept the gossip columns busy. In 1931, Cooper had another affair with Carol Lombard while filming I Take This Woman. Lombard was married to William Powell and was known for her quick wit. She even joked that Cooper was hung like a horse and can go all night, which made people talk about him even more. Cooper's charm wasn't just in his love life. Director Howard Hawks, who worked with him on several movies, famously called him a snake when it came to women. Hawks talked about how Cooper could be in multiple relationships at once, even while filming Today We Live in 1933. Cooper was seeing Joan Crawford, his future wife Veronica Bailey, and a young actress all at the same time. Hawks called it a masterclass in deception, despite all the scandals. Cooper never lost his fame. He remained one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, and his all-American image stayed strong. Hawks said it best. On screen, he was the perfect hero. Off screen, he broke a lot of hearts. But damn if he wasn't charming while he did it. Gary Cooper married Veronica Rocky Bailey on December 15th, 1,950 guests. The wedding was huge and glamorous, with over 250 guests at the Church of Our Lady of Lourdes in New York. Gary was 32 and Rocky was 20. Rocky was a former actor who had even been in King Kong. After meeting Gary, she quit acting to become his wife. They had only known each other for 6 months. At an earlier party hosted by Cesc Diasso, Gary, who was known for his charm and many affairs, was instantly drawn to Rocky. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also smart, graceful, and even a champion at ski shooting. Their honeymoon was just as grand as their wedding. They started by sailing on the SS Rex to Naples, then went to Rome, Paris, and London. After that, they went on an African safari where Gary hunted big game and killed over 60 animals, including a rhinoceros and lions. But soon after, problems started to arise because Gary, who was known for flirting, couldn't stay loyal. He started dating his co-star Fay Wray on the set of Viva Villa just a few weeks after their honeymoon, which made Rocky not trust him. On September 15, 1937, their daughter Maria Veronica Cooper was born in Los Angeles. Gary was nervous and paced the hospital halls until Maria was born. When he saw her, he joked, "She looks like a skinned rabbit, but I guess that's what they all do first." Having a child seemed to calm Gary down. He loved being a dad and often took Maria to his movie sets. He also introduced her to outdoor activities like horseback riding and hunting at their ranch in Sun Valley, Idaho. By the time Maria was 10, she was Even though Gary was a good father, he still had affairs that caused tension in the family. Maria later wrote in her memoir that Gary's most serious affair began in 1948 with Patricia Neal, who was much younger than him. They met while filming The Fountainhead, and their chemistry on screen turned into a real-life romance. They didn't try to hide it, often going to parties and restaurants together. In all, this hurt Rocky a lot, and Maria even admitted to spitting on the ground when she saw Patricia. In 1950, Patricia became pregnant with Gary's child, so Gary set up for her to have an abortion to avoid a scandal. There were rumors that Gary was seeing other women during this time, including Grace Kelly, Ingrid Bergman, and others. The stress of these affairs affected Gary's health, and in 1951, he had surgery for bleeding ulcers that were probably caused by the stress of his double life. Things came to a head in May 1951 when Rocky found love letters from Patricia in Gary's desk. They got into a huge fight that was so loud that their 13-year-old daughter Maria locked herself in her room to escape it. Soon after, Gary moved out and stayed at the Beverly Hills. While Rocky stayed at their Brentwood mansion, the media went crazy with reporters camping outside to get any news. Rocky got a good financial settlement, which included $1,100 a week in support, which was a lot at the time. During their separation, Gary's career took a hit. His movie Distant Drums didn't do well, and people blamed it on his messy personal life. However, in 1955, he won an Oscar for High Noon, which helped fix his image. Around the same time, Gary ended his affair with Patricia Neal and sent her a mink coat as a goodbye gift. Patricia later said that those years were a turning point in her life. Although Gary and Rocky were no longer together, they dated other people but couldn't fully move on. Maria felt stuck in the middle because she had to spend time with both of her parents. In her diary, she wrote that she wished she could be with both of them all the time. In 1941, Cooper was 40 years old, and people were starting to wonder if his days as a leading man were over. That's when he got the part of Sergeant York, a real-life World War I hero who started out as a pacifist but turned into a brave soldier. Cooper's calm and simple acting made him perfect for the part. The movie came out on July 2, 1941, just before America joined the war. In War II, it was a huge hit and made $64 million, which was more than any other movie that year. Critics said Cooper did a great job portraying York's inner struggle. On February 26, 1942, Cooper won his first Oscar for it. In his short acceptance speech, he said, "It was Sergeant Alvin York who won this award. I just got in his uniform." It was a big moment in his career. In 1952, Cooper won his second Oscar for High Noon, where he played Marshal Will Kane, a lawman who works alone. The movie came out on July 24, 1952, to mixed reviews at first, but over time it became a classic. Many people also thought it was a message about Hollywood's blacklist era. Cooper was hesitant to take the part because he was 50 years old and had health problems like a bleeding ulcer and back pain. But producer Stanley Kramer persuaded him, and Cooper's worn-out, world-weary look was perfect for the part. When Cooper won the Oscar at the 1953 Academy Awards, he wasn't there to accept it because he was filming in Mexico, but John Wayne did, and Cooper joked, "I'm gonna go." Surprisingly, Cooper didn't want the part of Lou Gehrig in The Pride of the Yankees 1942 at first. He was 41 years old, much older than Gehrig was when he retired from baseball at 36. Cooper also knew nothing about baseball and had never even been to a game. He joked, "I don't even know how to hold a bat." Cooper also thought it might be too soon to make a movie about Gehrig since he had died in 1941, but Gary's widow Eleanor visited him and begged him to take the part. After the attack on Pearl Harbor a few days later, Cooper decided to go ahead with the movie. To boost American morale, he worked hard to get ready, training with former Yankees pitcher Lefty Odu. Cooper even learned to hit and throw left-hand like Gehrig. The Pride of the Yankees came out on July 14, 1942, and was a big hit. Cooper's performance was praised by critics, and the movie earned 11 Oscar nominations. He didn't win for this role, but many people think it was one of his best. In his personal life, Cooper's reconciliation with his wife Rocky in 1954 marked a new beginning. They had been apart for years because of his affair with Patricia Neal, but they were seen together again, and they even celebrated Christmas as a family. Cooper became more interested in Catholicism, and so did his wife and daughter. This helped strengthen their relationship, and as a sign of their fresh start, the Coopers decided to build a new home together. On February 8, 1953, Cooper bought a 2-acre lot on Baroda Drive in H-By Hills for $35,000. The building of their new home became a joint project, which symbolized their renewed commitment to their marriage. The couple's reconciliation had a noticeable effect on Cooper's public image and career. He started to play more mature roles, like in Friendly Persuasion, 1956, which earned him critical acclaim. People thought that his role as a Quaker farmer struggling with pacifist beliefs during the Civil War showed how much he had grown as a person. The couple's daughter, Maria, later said that their reunion was the best gift their parents could have given her. In 1960, Cooper's health started to get worse. He was diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer that had spread to his colon. Despite surgeries and treatments, his condition got worse. Cooper kept working, even going to the UK to film The Naked Edge, his last movie. He was dedicated to his craft, but the illness took its toll. On May 13, 1961, just 6 days after his 60th birthday, Gary Cooper died at his home in Los Angeles. Most people wouldn't have been able to handle their pain for as long as Cooper did. Cooper's death ended an amazing career and a life full of both successes and failures. Gary Cooper grew up on the 7-Bar 9R Ranch near Craig, Montana. This ranch became a big part of who he was. In High Noon 1952, Gary brought his own saddle from the ranch to the movie set because he said it made him feel like the character wasn't fake. In The Westerner 1940, Gary made up a whole scene about breaking a wild horse using what he learned on the ranch. The director kept it in the movie. As a child, Gary loved watching family friend and cowboy artist Charles M. Russell draw scenes of ranch life. Russell's art showed Gary the beauty of the world he lived in, and he brought that into his acting. The ranch also made Gary love Western art. When Gary got older and more famous, he started collecting Western art, including paintings by Russell and Frederick Remington. He didn't like art that made cowboy life look fake, and he once sent back a painting because the artist drew a cowboy holding a lariat the wrong way. Later, Gary started painting Western scenes himself, inspired by the ranch. He never showed his work in public, but his acting was better for it. Gary started going to the ranch whenever Hollywood got too much after his nervous breakdown. Studio executives didn't like it because it made him unavailable, but Gary didn't care. He said the ranch kept him sane during hard times, like his affair with Patricia Neal. Gary spent more and more time at the ranch. The ranch hands treated him like one of their own, not a movie star, which meant a lot to him. Gary's last visit to the ranch was in April 1961, just weeks before he died of cancer. His daughter Maria said he talked about the smell of sagebrush and called it the smell of freedom. Gary said he wished he could enjoy it one last time. The ranch wasn't just a place he grew up or a vacation spot. It was a big part of who he was. It reminded him of simple times, hard work, and the cowboy spirit that made him unforgettable.